once the child is born and basically can live on its own, definitely they have no right to cause it harm. So it becomes a question of when is a child, so to speak, have the ability to, with reasonable care, to sustain life.
Yeah, but you could.
But you're right, abortion is the most difficult moral question to answer, without a doubt. But I've been thinking about it a lot, but I think from a rational viewpoint, the creators, and of the two creators, if there's a dispute, it's the mother, because the mother knows who she shagged. Okay, well, more than likely does. Because basically it's a higher probability the mother knows the other co-creator. So ultimately, if there's a dispute between mother and father, the mother has the overrule between the two. Plus she's doing all the work. You know, she's got to carry on and blah, blah, blah. But I think there's no other way that you can impose answer to the question other than who am I to say that a mother can or can't do it? I don't know the answer to it. And therefore, as they are the creators, really they have a higher right to decide that decision than I do.
But we do have people in this world who will just pump kids out and get rid of them. And
yeah.
They're literally just get rid of them.
I agree with you, but what I'm saying is, what right do I have to say that's wrong?
Well, what about a kid? Poor kid, he's got to spend his life in some sort of slavery.
Oh, you mean if they actually have children?
I mean, there are people in this world who have kids.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. We've moved on from abortion. Yeah. Okay. Now those parents or that parent, basically, somehow we need to reach a point where society does not reward that sort of behaviour.
Yeah.
And so this comes back to, basically, we're all entitled to an equal share of the pie, which means basically we all should have, 5 acres of land or whatever it is, okay, to build our house and grow our food and do whatever we want. And if we choose to go and live somewhere else and shack up and whatever, that's fine. And so essentially, do we have the right to enforce the social will? Maybe we're addressing the question from the wrong way. Well, you've created it. If you don't look after it, then we have the right to impose the will, because you are breaching the people's peace, and that kid's now one of the people.
Yeah.
So I try and rationalise it as best I can, but honestly, abortion is the most difficult one that I've had to give a direct answer to. Okay, so with this 2020 stuff and the expression or the re-expression of knowledge that we knew in the past. In the past there was Peel's policing principles. It's taken 150 years to make that into legislation. That's progress. It is.
Yeah.
Okay? So with all of this stuff, it's about the time that the thought is expressed verbally in draft and formally into legislation. So the Boris Johnson judgment 2019 is another example of this. Okay, so we're on page 73. Okay. Sorry, can somebody just give these to?
Yeah, we've got somebody else.
You've got one there.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, so what happened there was, if you remember back, Boris Johnson was, hey, I've just got voted in again on the promise of delivering Brexit. Stuff you, Parliament, all of you go home, I'm going to sort this deal out and not have you guys watching what I'm doing. That's what the argument was about.
Yeah.
So we've got two kiddies here fighting again. Okay? Everything is kids. Okay? You got these dudes and these dudes fighting. I'm Prime Minister, I'll tell you what to do. And they're saying, no, we write the rules and you. Okay? So the Supreme Court made a very long judgment, and the reason I got into it was because I was looking for definitions of statute law, legislation, all of this. I wanted to see what definitions the top judges in the country are using. And guess what? They use everything like this, mishy-mashy, just like Lord Denning in the Rule of Law. 75% of the book is brilliant, and then the last quarter is just absolute crap. Because they're not they don't know the difference. And if these are the highest judges that don't even know the difference, heaven help us.
Yeah.
But in the judgment, in sections 32 to 34, so in like 3 paragraphs, they nailed it. Now, most legal professionals' opinion of this judgment is, it's political, depending on if you're pro-Brexit or anti-Brexit. So if you were pro-Brexit, it's absolutely brilliant, they did the right thing. And if you were Ramona or whatever, that's all crap, it was a political decision. Okay, whichever way. And so when you read on their sites, and their sites will actually give their opinions of judgments, that's the level of discussion on their sites. Okay, this is the most important judgment probably ever in the history of the British judiciary, because it gave us absolute clarity of all of this stuff and how this works. So what I've shown to you in equity so far, I've shown in legislation that's confirmed, and the court itself says the same damn thing. Okay? So I just want to read you a few quotes from this, because really they've nailed it. Firstly, the Supreme Court has got 12 justices. Now the way that it works is, if it's the same court, you need more judges to overrule it, or you go to a higher court. Okay? So out of 12 judges in the Supreme Court, 11 of them were involved in this decision. And there can't be 12, because then if you need an odd number to be able to make a ruling. So 11 judges unanimously, okay, this is unanimous, no dissenting opinion, all 11 agreed. Okay? This ain't going to be overwritten anytime soon. Okay? So that is unique. I think it's the first time even there's been 11 judges in any Supreme Court case.
Sorry, what was the name of the case?
This is the Boris Johnson prorogation case.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay? So, first thing to note with it is Miller and Cherry. 2 people, a you and a me, holding the Advocate General of Scotland and the Prime Minister to account in the courts. You and me can do this. Okay? And this ruling is actually the law, the duties and obligations that the court has imposed upon those 2 people, the Advocate General and the Prime Minister. Okay? So, because they couldn't resolve their dispute in private, public dispute resolution has taken the 4 of you and said, this is the law now, get on with it. Okay? However, what it's done is, to reach its determination, it's gone through the history of law. Okay? Or pretty much a history of law. So, what they are saying basically, and now ask yourself, is this perfectly equitable? Is it fair and just? Does it sit right with me? Does it resonate as truth? Okay? So it starts the supremacy of those governing, of the courts over those governing. So, 400 years ago, just over 400 years ago, we sorted this argument. Why are we arguing it again 400 years later? Okay? The limits of prerogative power were set by law and were determined by the courts. So what's that telling us? The people are the boss. Governance is derived from what they call the prerogative power. Okay? And 400 years ago we already said the people control prerogative power. We, the people, have the power, not Parliament, to govern. Parliament's supremacy over the government. So this relationship, the rights has been affirmed. And in 1765, this was sorted. Who's the boss between these 2? And they said, the Secretary of State could not order searches of private property without authority conferred by an Act of Parliament or the common law. So unless we the people have allowed them to do that, or Parliament has, or. Okay? So again, that reaffirms this relationship.
Does that not say that legislation has power over us though? Because they could execute a warrant to search our property under an Act of Parliament. That's...
But the common law, if that says you can't, you can't. So if there is no common law dealing with it, and it's covered in legislation in this situation, then fine, you've got legislative authority. Okay? If there's no legislative authority, do you have common law? Sorry, common law authority. So, okay, let me just explain what Acts of Parliament are. They are claims of a believed right, and what happens is they make their claim, and then once it goes into court, that sets a precedence, and that then gives the force of law to legislation, because the courts have
Used it.
and like I said before, the problem is when you get bad law created.
Yeah.
Somebody's bribing somebody to get a ruling.
Yeah.
Okay? Then it becomes more difficult because you've got to go to a higher court to argue that it's not fair and just, it's not equitable. Okay? So bad legislation can become common law precedents, but as long as we entrust these idiots with legislation as law, we're going to end up with bad law.
Yeah.
That makes it much more difficult for us to fight back, because we need to go to higher courts. Right, so what that part tells us also is there's a difference between parliamentary authority and the law. The two things are different, which is what the Coronation Oath Act is. Statutes in Parliament agreed upon, and law, two different things. Then, now equitably, what that means is, it's not only the Secretary of State that needs authority from either legislation or the common law. Any agent of those governing. It applies to everybody that before you act, you need legislative authority or common law authority. Otherwise, you have no lawful authority to act.
Would that include enforcement agents for a liability order?
Correct? Yeah. Every step of the way. Because it's always principal agent. You delegate authority. Acts of Parliament. Okay, the legislature is basically a macro-manager. They don't micromanage the government. So they create primary legislation, and that they confers authority to the micromanagers, the government or the coolies. Okay? They got to fill in the detail and get the job done of what they want. So this is the strategy or the vision, and this is the details of the implementation. And in Acts of Parliament, that's called conferring authority or conferring power. The next thing, those governing are accountable to the people in the courts. Okay? Again, Lord Diplock, brilliant jurists. They are accountable to Parliament, they being the government and their agents, are accountable to Parliament for what they do, and of that, only Parliament is the judge. In regards efficiency and policy. They're responsible to a court of justice, i.e. the people, for the lawfulness of what they do, and of that the court is the only judge. Again, saying, listen mate, the law stands above you, and you are subject to the law. How can people not get this? I don't know. Yeah?
Can you please explain to what the HM government is in all this?
Okay.
Other than like
Right.
private corporations,
Okay.
but just in relation to Parliament and
Okay.
all the...
Alright, let's just talk about this.
Sorry, but
Okay, people believe about birth certificates, pots of gold, trust funds, courts of public, for-profit corporations, all of this. Again, there's no evidence to support these claims. In fact, there's evidence for the exact opposite. Okay? If you go on these websites, you'll see that they are listed not as a private limited company, They are listed as a public body. Okay? So they're not for-profit corporations or anything like that. Okay? There's no evidence to support those claims. So what's a birth certificate? Firstly, what's a certificate? Shout out. What's a certificate? Any
Piece of paper.
a piece of paper,
Recognition.
a particular type of piece of paper. What is it?
It shows something.
It shows something. A certificate is a record of an event. Somebody is certifying and saying, well done, you've attended the peacekeeper course. Well done, you've been born. Well done, you've got a silver star because of your wonderful sports achievements. Okay, a certificate is a record of an event. So, people say birth certificates are Crown copyrighted. Yeah, you're absolutely right, they are. The form is. They get a whole wedge of paper. You know, loads of these things, all of them empty, and they're all Crown copyrighted. That form is Crown copyrighted. You can't copy that form. That's what the copyright applies to. Okay? The words written in there, okay, there's not Crown copyright. It's the form which is copyrighted.
It does say on your birth certificate, this is not evidence of identity.
Of course it isn't. How can a piece of paper identify you? It can't. When were you born?
1958,
Okay, what day?
12th of December,
What led you to that belief?
because I saw it written on my birth
Ah,
certificate.
did you? Hearsay evidence. What first-hand evidence have you got of your birth?
Well, I suppose I drew breath, but I don't remember it.
You don't remember it? Oh, that's no bloody good, really, is it? Okay. A
So,
certificate
my
can
question,
also...
If it's not evidence of identification,
No.
so why they issue based on birth certificate, passports,
Yeah.
driving license, any kind?
Yeah, okay, let me... Okay, don't worry about it, we sort of go all over the show about that. Okay. Let's go back to basics.
Are you going exasperated with us, Mark?
This is all foundation stuff. And this is all really important stuff. The Bible. Anybody familiar with the Bible?
You're more familiar than I was 3 years ago.
I've read more of the Bible in the last 3 or 4 years than in my whole life. Okay. The first book of the Bible is Genesis,
Yeah.
the beginning, the start. Right. So, what is the significance of the Bible in law? And you walk into a court and you're going to give testimony. I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay? On the Bible. Why? It's the admission of a higher authority. When the Queen gives the oath, that's given on the Bible. It's the admission of a higher authority, the power greater than us humans. Okay? And in that book, Genesis 1:26 to 1:28, is the creation process and the expression of the trust. So this is their highest admitted law. This is law. Well, I'm quoting you here now. Okay? Basically, everything was created, and then God created man and woman in their likeness. Okay, we're not going to go down the argument about there, because mommy and daddy are God that created you, and therefore you in their likeness. But that's another story. And so it says that the people that were created have the benefit, the seasonal benefits, or the benefits of the seasonal nuts and seeds, or whatever the wording is. Okay? So what they've done is, God said, I'm the grantor. I've granted you your mind, I've granted you your body, and I've granted you the ability to make more of yous, and all of yous have the benefit of my grant. Okay, so God is the grantor. Okay, is God. And the trust is expressed in Genesis 1:26 to 1:28. So, he's granted us as beneficiaries. There is the seasonal fruits of his creations. And he granted us trustee for future generations. So we have a dual role. Okay, how do we know we're trustees? Because we were granted dominion, and dominion means we have responsibility. We are responsible for this. Okay? And so we have a dual role as trustee of the patch of land that we stake our claim and build our house and grow our food on, to get the seasonal fruits, and we must apply the best available knowledge not to wreck this patch of land for future generations. So we are trustees for future generations, beneficiaries in our life. And where do you see government in it? We are each individually sovereign, or in our own right, granted from the grantor a patch of land where we can look after ourselves, bugger off the rest of you. Okay? Now, that there is the trust that's expressed in the Bible, upon which they've accepted is the higher law. Therefore, this is truth to them. Okay? Or is it? What's happened is, if you trespass on somebody else's trust, then you become liable and accountable to the beneficiaries. So if you do not have authority from the grantor to be the trustee, you take over liability. So by them governing, what should happen is, let's follow the rules of the trust. Okay, I need to know who's alive. Birth certificate, I need for that, and the death certificate. Why do I need to know that? So that I can share out the pie nicely and evenly and everybody gets their fair share. That's why I need a birth certificate and a death certificate. So that we know who is looking after what in the trustee relationship. Okay? And so a birth certificate and death certificate makes absolute rational sense from that viewpoint, to make sure that everybody gets a fair share of the pie. However, we know we don't. So people have come up with these stories about these pots of gold all over the show with our names on them. Sorry if I'm being really sarcastic about this, okay? So basically, how many of you have a business background and are familiar with the term factoring? Okay? So, factoring is, I have a cash flow problem. And in order to get cash to pay my bills today, I sell a future revenue stream. Yeah? So I'll discount my invoices, which are due in 90 days. Who's going to give me 10% discount? Pay me 90% of what you can get in 3 months. Boom, deal done. Okay? This is the bonds. And this is how the bond market works. Because guess what? Based on your performance, once you have a birth certificate, you have a revenue stream. And if you need the cash today, you sell that revenue stream. No different from factoring. Okay? And that's the only evidence I can find of a pot of gold at the end somewhere. And this thing ain't going to get more valuable than what's left over, the residual value. So if I buy it here, I'll buy it more discounted than if I buy it here, and then I'll buy it here.
So is this why the government is listed on the SEC? So that it can trade the birth certificate? So our birth certificates are traded?
Are they traded on an individual level? I doubt it. Because you know, which investor is going to go through, all these birth certificates?
Tranches though.
Correct. Basically, what they would do is like they did with the mortgage, they just bang a whole lot together. This is the revenue stream from it. We'll pay you this much at this point in time. How much do you want to pay for it? So I fail to see how any of these things can have millions and millions and millions and get more valuable. Okay?
So what do they use that money for? Is that
To pay the bills today. Because they, basically, if you ran a company like this, you would be locked up, okay?
Yeah.
yes?
Okay? They bankrupt. But because they're government, obviously they do what the hell they like.
Whatever.
But that's the only rational thing that I can see how a birth certificate can get related to the stock exchange.
Isn't there a website you can go on to see what the value of your birth
Okay,
certificate
this should be true.
Fidelity.
This should be true. Okay, yeah, people have found things with the same reference numbers. Okay, it may well be true that you can drill down on an individual level. It just, to me, makes no rational sense. Nobody's going to go to that bloody effort to do it as an investor. Okay, because this is about raising money. I'll get to you in a minute, please. Okay. So, from a rational viewpoint, where is your value going to come from? How is this thing going to grow into millions? I don't get it. It must come from somewhere. Either somebody's putting all this gold into this pot. Your birth weight is what some people claim. So where's this gold coming from? If we've got our birth weight, my God, there's no way there's enough gold on the planet to cover everybody's
gold.
birth
No,
weight.
no,
It's not gold.
Fiat money.
It's all fiat.
It's all fiat
Or
money.
It's all
peanuts.
fiat.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
worth, it's
okay,
worthless.
It's not
whatever it
gold.
is.
It's
You get
dead.
many people making many different claims. But even if it's fiat, who's putting this fiat in there?
The same people that create the fiat in the first place.
Printed in the
Okay,
garage.
so how on earth does it matter?
Why
Of
would
what
they?
relevance is it?
Why? Why would they? do that?
Exactly, what's the point?
Because the
What
profiting
relevance?
off of your sweat equity.
Yeah.
Well, they're not. They're putting
No,
it
but
in.
if they're putting the
You
money...
said they're putting it in and then
It's
taking it
yours,
out.
it's your sweat equity
Yeah.
that they're creating fiat currency off of.
Okay,
Right.
so let's go to the Bank of England and let's see what they've got to say about it. Q1 Journal 2014 explains exactly how money is created in the modern economy. No mention of anything like this. What it says is,
No, go on,
what it says is, you create the money when you go for a loan.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are creating this money.
Right, right.
Yes.
You're right.
Okay, it tells you that. Okay, but it also tells you it's a fairy dust. Okay, because yes, there's somewhere double entry bookkeeping,
It is off ledger.
double bookkeeping entry which is not disclosed.
It is that. It's called off
But
ledger.
it actually tells you on the Bank of England that they do that double book entry. It tells you that. They magic this money out.
Did they tell you that within the quarterly bulletin? I've read it
Yeah.
just a while ago.
Q1.
Thank you. Because I've got my bounce back loan written up and
Yeah.
I am offering the service for several other people.
Yeah.
And they've come back and said it's all internal, you've no right to know it. And I'm
No,
trying
you
to
do.
drill
You have
down.
every right to bloody well know it. And the way that we're going to start forcing it out, I got an admission from the Solicitors Regulation Authority that the Solicitors Regulation Authority lied to me. Okay, using their own rules against them.
That's what.
Well, I went on it. I found mine.
Yeah.
I know how much is in there.
How much is in there?
12,721,000.
Sorry?
12,721,000.
So go and ask the guy that's got it and ask him to see,
I know.
is this me? It might have your number, I don't know.
Yeah, you find in the fidelity for your
Well, I
person
can't
number.
find mine.
There's
Change
GME.
the
Nobody
I
needs
found-
to
I
find
found mine.
Something like GMEI or something like that.
Yeah. But, so what? If they're putting the money in there anyway, what harm is it doing to you? What right do you have to something somebody else creates?
Yeah, but you got no right to
That's
use
what they're
me.
using to.
Yeah,
cover
but
the
it's not
headwind.
affecting you at all. Fine, let them play their game, let them play rugby. They'll play whatever they want. How does this harm you? How are you personally harmed from this?
They're forcing you into commercial intercourse
Hmm?
through legislation.
Sorry?
They're forcing you into commerce
They're not.
using legislation.
They're not
Fines and
forcing you into
forfeitures.
commerce, just operate in the private.
Yeah, but if
No
they'll let
different
you,
from-
if they'll let you operate in the private, but they'll come with guns and
Yeah,
bullets and.
that's why us people own
Yeah,
everything.
Okay, so now we're talking slavery, coercion,
Yeah.
force.
All
That's
us- all us
unlawful.
people in here, we
know
all own
that, it's
everything.
unlawful.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll be looking to, how do
remedy
we
the
change
situation.
There's
yeah,
no death.
Which is what
But-
the LCT is doing.
As soon as somebody shows me that they've actually got some of that money out of that pot. I don't believe a bloody word of it.
There's a guy on Facebook, his name's Julian Coltrane.
There are
Yeah.
hundreds of people which claim,
Well,
but not one yet has been able to show me any evidence that it's true. Loads of people claim and say it.
Have you asked them
But,
all?
yeah, I've asked loads of people and I've been kicked off loads of groups. Okay, because I want to see evidence, that's it.
There
No,
is
I want to
another
see.
way of getting our money back, which of course is the 1099 OID. I'm currently going
Again,
through a
That's right,
process.
That's only a claim
Because
I've made it. A friend of mine has actually got his cheque, 200,000.
That's right, yeah.
For 200.
I'm in the middle of doing it myself.
I've heard
it
as well.
2018.
so
Yeah, you get
show
through the
me-
banking
Show
system.
me in the bank, in the account, and show me the process from beginning to end that is verifiable. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, but you've got to be under the UCC when.
Not only do you have to be under UCC, but that's a commercial transaction.
Yeah, but they won't talk to you in the States, so you won't get a 1099 off them, by the way.
Yeah, no, people are trying. People, I mean...
Well, I got all mine, I got the IODs as well.
And so you got the money in your bank account.
No, I'm in the process of sending it off now. I got to get it off before the end of the
So
month.
when you buy this yacht, can I come out with you?
No, I'm not about buying the yacht, I'm all about getting the money back from the banking system, nothing to do with the trust.
But anyway, at the moment I see no evidence to it.
It's an off ledger, they always do it, they put off ledger. I take money out of the trust, that's what they do. And it's stuck there for 3 years. And they're waiting for you to claim it back, and if you don't claim it back, they have it.
Yeah, so fine, get it, show me. When I see
Yeah.
you with your yacht and the Ferrari, then...
Well, I'm going to have money every
I'll-
year to do that like a
Maybe we're
yacht.
going to waste it on a yacht and a Ferrari.
Whatever, okay? The
I'll
point
tell you,
is...
it's real though.
That'd be cool.
It's just the way the banking system works.
Yeah, no, that's fine. If you can benefit from it, why aren't we all doing it?
I mean, the
Because
trust
they
is,
keep
trust
it
is
hidden from
different.
you. They hide it from
Look,
you.
people have been trying it for 40, 50 years.
Well, somebody's
Go
benefiting
back
from
to
it,
Stroud.
otherwise the system wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
The system is... Well,
Go
Somebody's
back to
benefiting.
your court case. Are we ready to do that yet?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my court case, how did I really get into all of this? Basically, my background is contract claims, i.e. contract law. And you learn to get pedantic, which is why all of my stuff is referenced to source, because I've had a few embarrassments where, you know, I misinterpreted stuff or whatever, got it wrong, so I'm pretty particular. Doesn't mean that I'm right with everything, so please, you know, what's important is that we get to the truth. So if I've got something referenced wrong or I'm wrong, say so, okay? This is about getting to the truth. It's not about my ego or what I'm, you know, my name or whatever. So in Kuwait, we don't have a public pension. And so what we did was we bought a flat in Liverpool in 2012. You know, you've always got to watch builders, they're a very funny bunch. Went fine. We got our 5 years guaranteed rent at nice rates. So we had half the flat paid off within 5 years. And we thought, right, this is enough, we need 3 flats. So we bought another one up in Leeds, which was off plan. And in 2018, the developer went bust. And so, being in business, I know there's no money in the company, it's just a fiction, and the bank accounts are all empty, so I went after 13 directives. And in this country, you don't go after directives, it's a big no-no. Why? Basically, this is where most of the fraud occurs. How do most of the backhanders get paid to those governing, and that can be the local council or government, is through basically non-executive directorships and families who are directors and stuff like this. And this was well exposed over the PPE thing. Okay? That's public knowledge. So you don't go after directors. Now, company law, basically the limited liability, okay, is being extended and is enforced as if directors are covered by a limited liability.